Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Another episode. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada. I'm in British Columbia to be specific. Hope you all are doing good. I will prompt you the question as well. What was the dumbest thing an American has said to you? Let me know in the comments. Let's hop right into it. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. What's it like to have an accent? This is a ridiculous question because literally everyone has an accent. There can be differences in accent an hour drive away from you, right? Like, the question doesn't make any sense. It shows a serious lack of perspective about the world. Even in the States, they'll have the Southern accent, right? Texas. Well, we love it. That's how we do down in Texas. They have Texas, and they have Florida, the Midwest accent, the West Coast accent, the New Yorker accent, the Boston accent, like so many different accents. So that question is pretty stupid. Next one. I love your accent. I wish I had one. It took me an hour. My friend who was over at the time and my mom to explain to my American half-sisters that they do have an accent. They're still not convinced. Good luck convincing them. They're going to be pretty dead set in their ways. Wait, we do have accents? I feel like an idiot now. I don't know if is this person being serious? Lol, we don't sound like we have an accent because we grew up around everyone who also spoke like us. So to people with other accents, we sound different. He really had to explain that. Like, yeah, okay. Hanging out on a playground, an American girlfriend asked me whether we have swings in Germany. No. Germans don't have swings. They only have stacks of boxes in their children's parks, so the kids can climb up the boxes and jump off and have fun. No swings are allowed. They're just certainly not allowed. It reminds me of the time I visited New York around 2007, and some nice ladies in a cafe asked me how I liked all the technology in New York. Weird question, but okay. Long story short, they thought we didn't have the same tech like iPods and mobile phones in Ireland, and were shocked when I told them we did in fact have access to technology. They legitimately assumed we still lived in houses with thatched roofs and shit. They were so lovely though, so I couldn't even be angry. Their little New York accents were the cutest. Yeah, we've seen this thread in commentary quite a bit of Americans thinking other countries are like living in the dark ages with like no technology, no cars, no air conditioning, no paved roads. That was a big one on the last video. Do you guys have paved roads in Ireland? It's like, what? Yes, we do. Seriously though, why do so many Americans think that they are the only civilized place in the world? They're in a bubble. There's a certain America is the best philosophy that's kind of driven into them at a young age. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. They should pledge allegiance to learning, pledge allegiance to geographical knowledge, pledge allegiance to having some perspective and opening your minds. There's a reason we often see those videos of American tourists just being insufferable and so easily identified because they're loud, obnoxious, and just frankly inconsiderate and annoying. So it's, yeah. What were the responses to that question, though? There aren't a lot of movies about present-day Ireland. There are a lot of movies about old-timey Ireland. Some people never leave their own state, let alone the country, so that's what they go off. That may work as like a explanation of sorts, but or a reason. It's not a good excuse. Yep, this is pretty much what they said too. In fairness, even modern movies like to play up the quaint Ireland diddly-eye type shite. So I can't blame anyone who thinks it's like this if all they have to base it on is movies. Well, you really shouldn't you shouldn't base your knowledge of the world on things that you get from fictional films. Probably not a good practice, but we are in the 21st century, deep into it now, and that's where we're headed. Bite-sized, very short-form content people really not reading anymore. Like, you're not really going to see many people picking up books, let alone Americans. They're not that bad. It's usually just genuine ignorance. Genuine ignorance. That's actually a decent way of framing it, because if the ignorance is, stubborn, a stubborn ignorance and lack of humility to learn and arrogance, that's a problem. But, if they're just genuinely ignorant, that doesn't even mean somebody's stupid. That just means they're ignorant of the facts. They haven't learned about it, which is fine. Everybody needs to learn all the time, and people make mistakes, and people can get better. They can learn. They can grow. But they need to have the humility to be able to recognize that, right? And actually put it to practice. And the fact that they grow up learning America's the greatest country in the world over and over. So that's kind of what I was talking about a minute ago with the America's the greatest country ever. We're the best. We're the beacons of civilization and progress. We're pushing it to the limit. We're at the frontier. Everybody else is just tagging along with us. Manifest destiny, this imperialist, well, that's not quite 100% related, but I feel like a lot of Trump's rhetoric, annexing Canada, and then they wonder why, Canadians aren't, where are the Canadian tourists? They're gone. Where are the Canadian tourists? There's no Canadian tourists here. Really? I wonder why. Did more for your image than those movies did. Jacksepticeye? I don't know what that. Jacksepticeye. I don't know what that is. I thought the same thing when blues musicians went on tour in Europe in the 60s, and Euros thought they would be barefoot wearing overalls. Okay, that's very specific, but okay. Another dumb thing Americans say, that Brazilians speak Spanish. Brazilians speak Portuguese. Somehow, I think that's not a singular American trait. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's specifically something Americans only do. There's going to be a lot of other people around the world that either don't know what language they speak in Brazil, or maybe think they speak Spanish in Brazil. I don't know. They speak Chinese, right? For a second, I thought all three of you were the same person because of your profile pics, right? Another thing, there was massive voter fraud. This one's kind of interesting because there was a comment on one of the prior videos we did, and I had mentioned, I'm not sure what specifically I said, but I was speaking about J6, January 6th. And the person basically commented, don't fall into the conspiracy theory about January 6th. Trump did nothing wrong and da-da-da. Well, he actually did a lot of things wrong. He was trying to, remember the phone calls? Trying to strong arm people to find votes. He tried to get Pence to not confirm the elected. Trump was not accepting the results of the election. So what was his goal with that? What was his goal of delaying, deferring, not accepting the results in an attempt to stay in power? What was his goal? Was he simply just laying the groundwork for his future run? Maybe. But that's not how the democratic process works. When his own court-appointed, when his own justices and the own people that he put in the courts ruled that the election was fair and there was no massive voter fraud, and he lost, he didn't accept that. And whether or not you think Trump's 100% responsible for what happened, or if it's all just a conspiracy, sure. But there's the fact that the dude does not respect democratic process. I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2028, but time will tell, right? This person says, we don't know because somebody deleted their comment, unfortunately. But the person who put forth the massive voter fraud comment, they follow it up saying, no, absolutely no proof ever presented of massive voter fraud. On the other hand, American foreign intelligence agencies and Senate Intelligence Committee confirmed Russian election interference Republican Robert Mueller indicted 13 or so Russians for their roles in interfering in the election, and the Trump campaign invited and met with Russians, and they understood were representing the Russian government in Trump Tower, and then tried to fabricate some BS story about Ukraine. Yeah, pretty typical. And I think Trump is probably making Putin pretty happy right now with everything that he's doing, all the chaos, and how he is really, really hurting the United States. Because I don't know if perception of America has ever been this bad. So Putin must just be like, man, Donald he's doing good job. Yeah, doing great job. This person says America is the best country to live in, which is a pretty subjective claim that a lot of Americans would put forth. But that's that American ignorance, right? This person follows up. We have such a superiority complex. It feels like something from a movie. Agree. Yeah, except when you need health insurance or a vacation. Yeah, we both know the best country to live in is Mars. I like one of the comments on the last videos. It's like, Americans don't go to school because they're afraid of getting shot. Which is a joke, maybe you could say, in poor taste, but kind of true. This one dork asked me what was the dumbest thing an American has ever said to me. Frowny face. This is the saddest comment exchange I've ever seen. Football should be played with your hands. American football, of course. Yes. They name their sports World Series when it's only North Americans who participate. Yeah, that's a classic. The World Champions. When it's only within America. She told me she voted for W because he was funny. Is that George W. Bush? During the 2016 primary, I saw a woman brag about how she's voting for Trump because Kasich eats fruit too fast. What is this quote? That's how they do it in Europe? I need more context for this one. We got a longer comment here. The first thing that comes to mind is the surprisingly widespread idea that they, quote, don't have an accent, unquote. An accent is just a method of pronouncing a language. Everyone has one. It affects everything about the way you speak. It's embedded in your vowel sounds, word usage, and just the way your mouth forms certain sounds. An accent is to speech like a breed is to a dog. What breed of dog do you have? Oh, my dog doesn't have a breed. It's just a standard dog. So I pose the answer. So I suppose to answer the question. There was one guy who tried to tell me that the UK, Australia, South Africa, Canada, and the USA all once shared the same accent, and that accent used to be what you hear on the evening news in the US. He went on to explain that England's royals and elites were the first to adopt an accent to put themselves above the peasant class. Then 5 other dialects in the UK evolved, and much the same happened in Canada and Australia, where everyone decided to create their own version. It's amazing the kind of nonsense people will spew as if it were fact, and say it with completely straight faces the entire time. I have no idea where people pick up these ideas, but it's common enough to be concerning. Yeah, that's not how language works. It's just a commonality in a region for people to develop those accents. In places like Australia, there's big variance in accent. In Canada, of course, there's huge variance. Go to the Maritimes for a few days. Hang out with some Newfies. See if they speak differently, right? So we all have accents. We all have different variants within those accents. So when living in the States, I was asked fairly regularly where I was from due to my accent. One of the more mild English ones. This was often followed by a guess. The guess would be normally Australia, but I also got France and Scotland a lot. That a French accent is nothing like an Australian or a Scottish accent. But at one point, someone guessed Tennessee. I also had the conversation, what do you call the language you speak in England? English. But you use different words for some things. What do you call our English? You're speaking American. Well, American's not a language. That Africa is a continent. I'm an American, so I can keep going if you want. I've heard a lot of lol. What? I mean, South Africa. I guess I need to add myself to the list. Yes, I think you do. I'll give them a break. Whatever I say when I talk to myself. Spain is in Europe? Yes, where did you think it was? South America. That's where all the Spanish speakers come from. or from the same person. Ireland's an island? Clearly, geography wasn't their best subject, which is something we've spoken about a lot in the last couple videos. Geography and Americans, water and oil. All right, I did prompt you guys to let me know this question right here. Let me know. Give me it. I want to see it. I want to see it in the comments. And I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.